Hey everyone, welcome into our latest Traded Black podcast. I am your host, Shad Dales, and tonight we're going to dive into the biggest developments in cannabis, the industry developments for this week of March the 10th. From a biased DEA under the Biden administration to why cannabis reform is no longer just about legalization, but about pro-business policies, law and order, and an American-first economic approach, according to Eric Moff, partner at FinSci US Management. Lots to unpack, so let's get into it. All right, let's first start with a bold statement from Eric Moff, who shared his thoughts in our baked-in newsletter this week, which you can subscribe by scanning this QR code right here. Moff sees Trump as the only leader poised to bring real cannabis reform to the U.S. Since 2016, the legal cannabis industry has exploded, growing from $5.4 billion in sales to $32 billion, creating over 500,000 jobs. Yet, federal gridlock keeps holding back progress. The Department of Health and Human Services has already confirmed cannabis's medical use and recommended rescheduling it to a Schedule 3. But the DEA, well, they're dragging their feet, playing politics instead of following the science. Moff argues that Biden's inaction is actually allowing Mexican and Chinese drug syndicates to thrive while American cannabis businesses struggle under outdated laws. Meanwhile, President Trump has a clear plan: end cannabis debanking, regulate THC fairly, and reclaim the cannabis market for American entrepreneurs. Could we see Trump do for cannabis what he's already done with crypto? That's the big question that Eric Moff asks. Speaking of the DEA, a February 17th court filing from Doctors for Drug Policy Reform has exposed a pretty scandalous reality. When reviewing marijuana rescheduling, the DEA allegedly stacked the deck against cannabis-friendly states. Out of 163 applications, they only accepted 25, completely ignoring both New York and Colorado while favoring a dozen anti-cannabis opponents. That's just not shady, it's outright political interference. Dr. Bryden Adnoff, who's leading the lawsuit against the DEA, isn't surprised. He calls it, quote, the worst kept secret in Washington, end quote. And with the rescheduling decision in limbo, the industry is left wondering, will cannabis reform be decided by science or political bias? With Trump's new DEA pick Terry Cole stepping in, some believe rescheduling could be delayed indefinitely. But again, pay attention to President Trump. Now let's switch gears to earnings season, where some notable cannabis companies are thriving while others are fighting to stay competitive. First up, Village Farms, which trades on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol VFF. They took a $10.5 million non-cash impairment hit on bad Canadian cannabis inventory. But without that, Q4 adjusted EBITDA would have been $7 million with a full year cash flow of up to $10.3 million. The real highlight, a 127% spike in international cannabis sales, with major growth in Germany, Australia, and New Zealand. Next up, Cresco Labs, where they had 2024 revenue hit $724 million, a 6% decline from last year. The good news, adjusted EBITDA grew 15% to $200 million, showing strong cost controls. Challenges do remain, though, as price compression in key states like Illinois and Pennsylvania continues to put pressure on margins. And finally, Ascend Wellness. Full year revenue jumped 8.3%, even with a slight dip in Q4. And their fast-growing wholesale segment is driving expansion, though lower margins in the space remains a challenge. Let's now move to some major shakeup news in the industry this week. Verano Holdings just launched a wave of new products, including extra savvy vape carts, strut all-in-one vapes, and diamond dusted 100 proof pre-rolls. It is important to note, though, they need this expansion, but with revenue and margins slipping, is this enough to turn things around? We'll see. Elsewhere, Rubicon Organics just made its first international shipment of premium cannabis to Poland. That's huge considering international markets often command a premium over domestic sales. And over at Trulieve, CFO Wes Getman is out, with Ryan Bluss stepping in as an interim CFO. The role has been a revolving door for Trulieve, so the question now is asked, will Bust finally bring stability to this position? And finally, let's move north to Canada, where Justin Trudeau has officially exited as Prime Minister of Canada. So what really was the greatest legacy under the Trudeau administration? Or was there really even any? Well, according to a new Angus Reid poll, it's not pandemic leadership, gender equality, or climate policy. It's cannabis legalization. 52% of Canadians say legalization was Trudeau's top achievement. In fact, a government report in December confirmed that 97% of consumers now buy from legal sources, youth access hasn't spiked, and beer sales are actually down. So, could this be a model for U.S. federal legalization? Many experts think so, and oh, we hope so. So that's it for this week. From Trump's Common Sense Cannabis Grand Slam by Eric Moff to the DEA bias being exposed and earnings reports from notable companies like Cresco Labs and Village Farms. Another busy week is now in the books. So with that, enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. And don't forget to like, subscribe, smash on that bell for all notifications, leave some comments as well, and stay connected with us here at the Traded Black Podcast for all the latest cannabis industry developments. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and I'll see you next time on our latest Traded Black Podcast.